I'm going to make the carnation now. I'm using the medium cutter and a 26 gauge hooked wire. You need to put a tiny piece of paste onto the wire to start, and again I would let it dry. Soften your paste, put a little fat on your board and roll. I like to roll in a length, and that way I get several petals cut at once. Roll until it's fairly fine. Remove from the board and put on the side where it's dry. Fingers in and move the cutter so that the paste is in the cutter. And I'm going to put it onto my soft pad. Always make sure the cutter moves so you get a nice clean cut with your cutter. I quite often put 4 or 5 layers, but you know when you get to the 4th layer if it needs a 5th one or not. At this stage, I'll take my bone tool and I'm just going to open each one. I don't mind if the paste breaks because it gives a better effect to your carnation. So make sure when you soften each one, I'm using this part of the bone tool and soften and soften, and it allows for no marks that you can see here to be left. Squash it all down and soften each one. I move the pad around and I don't hold the paste. It's much easier. If you hold the paste while you're softening, you can distort the shape of the petal. So move your pad while you're working and soften each one. If you were doing a lot of carnations, you would do the first layer on all. So if you were doing 10 carnations, you'd do the first layer on 10. Then you do the second layer and then the third layer. For this purpose, we'll do all of them together. There's our inside piece, and the first one that I'm going to do, I put the glue in, but try and avoid where you've just softened. So as you would come with the glue, come to the end of the little sections that are cut like so. Pick your wire, insert, and again onto your finger and your thumb, and move the wire down. Pinch the petals together so that it's in half like so. I'm going to put a little glue down the center and then just on the left hand side, and push the left hand one so that it's upright like so. Turn it over, left hand side and in the middle, and push again. And then with my fingers, my 2 fingers and my thumb, I'm just going to make it so it's rounded and secure on the wire. At this stage I will do number 2. Onto here, and I push and push. Don't worry if it pleats underneath. You will hide that with your calyx. And then I just repeat until I've got all the layers on, until I'm happy with the overall look of the top of my carnation. If I don't think it needs another layer, I won't put one on. Gently. You've got to be very gentle if you've only just done the first one. But if you let it dry, it's much easier. And there's number 4. And I think that is plenty enough. I'm going to do the calyx on the back of the carnation. I'm using this, one of the set of calyx cutters. I make a cone with a long back and shape it into a Mexican hat. take a small rolling pin or one of the tools is appropriate for rolling it finer. Don't worry if your tools mark your paste, because you're going to cut around that and nobody can see. I've now got the shape I need. Just make sure that the cutter fits over, and then move the cutter around the board again. Rub your hand like so and take this away, and then push so you have your calyx like this. And then I'm going to take the knife and scriber tool. So I have the pointed end, and the pointed end will go into the center of your calyx to open it up. And then with each petal I push against the paste as I'm rolling, and that widens the petal and softens the petals. It's then ready to pop onto the bottom of your carnation. And push in. And tidy up on the bottom. And I just hook the 26 gauge wire and hang it on the flower drying stand. I'm going to make some rose leaves now. I'm going to use the set of 3, and I'll just do the 2 smaller ones to begin with. And I'm going to use a 28 gauge green wire. I've got some green paste ready made. And again, soften the paste. And I will stop by rolling, but you need an area to be allowed to put your wire into. So I will take the paste, I will roll like so. So I leave a thicker part here so that I can insert the wire. And cut, and I pop the leaf onto my finger. I take the wire, put a little bit of glue on, insert it in, and I twist the wire in and just pinch it slightly. Take it onto the soft pad, and I'm going to take a veining tool to vein the leaf. Place it on and press down, and then I hold the wire and pull the veiner away. Turn the whole leaf over, and I'm just using the bone tool to just soften again and give the leaf a little bit of shape, like so. And I will hang it to dry. I'm going to get the flowers ready for putting together. I like to take my leaves, and I shall put some dust. I dust the leaves on each side. I've used pink on my brush, and I'm dusting the very edge of my petals. And it enhances the whole flower. Like so. And I will do the same with the carnation. Don't put too much on. Lift to the flower and then use it flat across the flower. Not like this, like this. I'm then going to take each flower and I'm going to put some tape on. Use my green tape, I cut it into quarters to make it finer, to use when I am binding the wires, so I get a much finer finish with it. As I've started it onto the wire, I'm pushing up slightly to make sure no white is seen, and then I'm rolling between my finger and thumb with a little bit of tension on the tape here to make it sticky and cover the wire. You don't need to go completely, and the same with the leaves. Like so. But then take the leaves, and as you can see I have 2 small, 2 medium and 1 large. With a rose you start with the large leaf, put the wire onto the tape and roll so that the veining is facing you. As I pick up this leaf, I will just turn it slightly between my fingers and thumb and pop into place, and do the same size leaf on the other side. And I always just tape 1 leaf at a time. Don't try and do 3 or 4 together. Come down slightly with the wire, down the wire with the tape, and bring the smaller ones in. And again. When I get to this stage, I just tweak on the leaves to just give them some movement. And then I will bring in the flowers that I want to bring in. And the rose. Always curving the wire slightly. And come down the wire slightly more. And that will sit in there for you. And tape. I'm pinching nice and hard so that it will stay exactly where I want it to stay. And then you can bring in any other flowers you've made or foliage. And that's how I would tape my spray up. And you would trim the bottom before you would insert them into your cake. And that would be my finished spray.